Teacher Talking Sports, what does, what do, how we live, and let's continue the series I started recently where I've been attempting to name the best player in each NFL team's franchise history. I've been going in alphabetical order. Today we are on the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions became a franchise in 1930 and they were known as the Portsmouth Spartans. They remained that name until 1933. Starting in 1934, they have been known as the Detroit Lions. So, nearly a century. In 10 years, it'll be a century that they have been in Detroit. Now, two off seasons ago, I did my NFL Mount Rushmores by team, where I attempted to name the four best players in each team's history. Last offseason, I did my Mount Rushmores by position, the four best players at each position in NFL history. So, before I get into the GOAT for each of these, I've been taking a look at those Mount Rushmores, seeing if maybe I would have made some potential changes in the 2 years since I've done them. So, in alphabetical order, I included Megatron, Calvin Johnson, single season record 1,964 receiving yards in 2012. Bobby Lane, quarterback mostly with Detroit in the 1950s. He won two championships as their starting quarterback and went 53-29-2 as a starter. Barry Sanders, one of the best running backs and one of the most electric players at any position. And Joe Schmidt. Schmidt, another guy who played in the 50s and 60s, 13 seasons. The linebacker was a 10-time Pro Bowler, 8-time first team All Pro. Some honorable mentions that I had included were Matthew Stafford, Lem Barney, Dick LeBeau, Robert Porcher, Lomas Brown, Jason Hanson, Billy Sims, Alex Karras, Dutch Clark, Doak Walker, Wayne Walker, Herman Moore, Kevin Glover, Doug English, Charlie Sanders, Yale Lowry, and Jack Christensen. So I'm going to keep it as is. Maybe I would revisit and see if I would say Bobby Lane was probably the fourth guy on there. Some of these other guys like Barney and Larry and Christensen played way back in the day, but definitely have um, could be on over Lane. I could revisit that, but I'm gonna keep them on. But anyhow, my best line in team history is, I'm sure most would agree, running back Barry Sanders, the third overall selection in the 1989 NFL Draft out of Oklahoma State. Sanders played 10 seasons in the NFL, premature retirement at the age of 30. Retiring still at the top of his game, but what a career he had. First ballot Hall of Famer in 2004. Part of the NFL's All 1990s team, part of the NFL's 100th anniversary team. We take a look at his season by season numbers. All 10 of his seasons, he rushed for 1,000 yards. Matter of fact, at least 1,115 yards in all those seasons. Four times led the league in rushing yards, part of the few backs who have had a 2,000 rushing yard season, which he did in 1997. He also added 352 catches for 2,921 yards. 15,269 rushing yards in his career are the fourth most in NFL history, and again, impressive because he played just 10 seasons. His 99 rushing touchdowns are the 10th most in league history. Twice Sanders led the league in yards from scrimmage. 1989 Offensive Rookie of the Year, 1994 Offensive Player of the Year, 1997 Offensive Player of the Year, 1997 MVP, also finished as the runner-up for MVP and third in MVP, had two third-place Offensive Player of the Year finishes and a fifth place as well. Sanders was named to the Pro Bowl in all 10 of his seasons. He was a six-time first-team All-Pro, 6 seasons where he had double-digit rushing touchdowns in his career. His 99.8 rushing yards per game are the second most in NFL history, only behind the great Jim Brown, 5 yards per carry for his career. Um, in 5 of his 10 seasons, he ran for over 5 yards a carry. Of course, 5 yards a carry is mighty impressive. So to do it for your career is incredible, especially when you had the amount of carries that Sanders did, 3,062 for his career. Still an historic figure today. Of course, his Lions team just didn't have all that much success. The most success they had was in 1991 when they lost in the conference championship to Washington. But again, in my eyes, and I'm sure a lot of your eyes, the best Lion in team history is Barry Sanders. But let me know in the comments if you would consider anyone else to be the GOAT of the Lions. Of course, some of these will be easier, more obvious than other teams. Teams like the Browns, the Broncos, fairly easy, but not all of them are. The Falcons weren't very easy. Team like the Panthers was extremely hard. But with all of these, I look at the active roster and say if I believe any of them can overtake the GOAT or at least be in consideration for the Mount Rushmore when their career is done. I don't see anyone overtaking Barry Sanders, that's for sure. But they definitely have a good roster. Made the conference championship this past year. Of course, Aiden Hutchinson's only played 2 seasons, but definitely has the potential to be at least the team's best pass rusher ever. Amon-Ra St. Brown through 3 seasons, 315 catches already. Those are two guys. Penny Sewell, one of the game's best young offensive linemen. Maybe all three of them have a chance for Mount Rushmore. And if Jared Goff can lead them to their first Super Bowl, yes, they won championships before the Super Bowl era, but never the Super Bowl. Maybe Jared Goff could be an honorable mention or find his way on, depending on how many more seasons he plays with the team. But there you have it. Stay tuned. Next, I am doing the Houston Texans. Haven't had a lengthy history, but have had their fair share of outstanding players. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.